In this assignment, you'll be drafting a motion to compel. Now, a motion is when you ask the court to do something, and then the court responds with what we call as an order. So, with any motion, we have the same format. You have your motion, which is the ask. You include a notice, which gives notice to the court, but also to all parties as to when the court will hear your motion. And then finally, you should always tender an order. A tendered order is an order that you write for the court. So you write what you would like them to grant you. So if we look at this over here on the right-hand side of the screen, for this motion to compel, the situation is that the plaintiff has failed to respond to a set of interrogatories that were sent to the plaintiff by the defendant on March the 1st, 2021. Figure out when they would be due according to the Ohio Rules of Civil Procedure. Include in your motion that you sent them on March the 1st, that the plaintiff had not responded by the due date, that you sent them a letter asking them to respond, that they continued to fail to respond, that you sent them a second letter and they did not respond to that. Therefore, you were left with no other recourse than to ask the court, than to move the court to compel the plaintiff to respond. Now, I'm just saying that. Those are not the words. Don't start writing everything down word for word. Clean that up, obviously, but that's your time frame. That's what you would do. Anytime that you have a dispute in discovery, you're required by our rules to try to work it out between the two parties. So that's what those two letters are. And that's pretty typical. We'll give two letters and then we get the court involved. So with this, once we decide, yes, we're at this point where we need to get the court involved, remember on this right-hand side, this is what it will look like. So you'll have your caption. The caption doesn't change. Here, where I say title goes here, this would be include the party name who's making the motion. So in this case, it would be the defendant. Always include party name and party designation. And you would say, in this case, Defendant DuPont's motion to compel plaintiff tenant to respond to interrogatories. Then in the body of the document, make sure your body is double spaced with all things that we file with a court. Go through and explain those dates that we just talked about, as well as the fact that you sent the letters, and therefore you move this court to compel the plaintiff to respond to the interrogatories. Typically, we will say by a date certain or within 10 days of the court's decision. Then you go on and you have your subscription. Remember, the subscription is right here. It says respectfully submitted, has the correct parties. This one is showing the opposite, showing that something that was created by the plaintiff. So you would want to make sure yours is created by the defendant or the appropriate party whenever you're going through these things. Make sure you comply with Rule 11. Look up Rule 11 if you're not sure, if you're in compliance. Make sure that you have everything there. And then you have your notice just right after that subscription, and you put a heading on it just like that. Please take notice that the above motion shall be heard on such and such date. You'll want to push that date out since we only sent the interrogatories hypothetically March 1st. Maybe this is May 1st or whatever a couple months out is. And you always want to include a time. When you include a time, make sure you include the full time, even if it's 9 o'clock on the dot. Make sure you include the full time so that's very intentional and we know that it's that exact time. Make sure you capitalize court, and we always say, or at the court's earliest convenience. Then you have your certificate of service. On the certificate of service, make sure you put the date that it was sent and how it was sent. If you send it electronically, include an electronic mail, an email address that you sent it to. If you send it via regular mail, include a regular street address. You do not need to include everything that is included in a subscription. You're just describing where you sent it to. Then you have a signature line. A signature line is the line that you see just right here But then a signature line includes the attorney's name, their registration number, and the designation of who they represent. So in this case, this would all be defense information. Then on a separate page, but certainly within the same document electronically, you have your order. You still have the caption, just like anything else. The title goes here, although I have this in lowercase, that's just to indicate that you would be adding things to it. So you would say order granting defendant's motion to compel. Then you have the body of this, and you generally goes something like, this matter having come before this honorable court on such and such date by motion of the defendant DuPont, and the court being otherwise sufficiently advised. And then the new paragraph, it is hereby ordered that the plaintiff shall respond to defendant, and again, names and all this, defendant's interrogatories within 10 days of this order. And then next paragraph, it is so ordered, and you can include a blank line, day of, and again, if you're sending this in May, you might put May 2021. So that wording is the exact wording. You can replay this as much as you'd like. That is the exact wording that we use. Then you have the place for the judge's signature, and then copies too, and you include copies for both sides. So that's the instructions for this assignment. I specifically put the instructions in the video, not in writing, so that I could make sure everybody's watching the videos. Those of you who do, it's really obvious because you tend to do a very nice job. If you are looking for what should you include in your motion, or you're struggling with the body of the motion itself, I do have pulled up here just to give you some guidance in Lexis under that practical guidance section. There is a section in Ohio for motions to compel. You can see here on this left-hand side, on the motion to compel, it talks about by which rule we are talking about, talks about ways that people fail to do things, says that you should attempt to informally resolve the dispute. That's those letters that we're talking about. And then it gets to the contents of the motion. The contents of the motion, as you see here within Lexis, says that you need to identify the moving party, comes now the defendant, DuPont, the discovery being sought, which are the interrogatories, a brief summary saying why in order to compel is necessary, and that's that they've not responded and you've sent 2 different letters trying to get them to comply. We are not going to do a memo in support. Please read through this practical guidance, but this is a pretty straightforward issue that they've just not responded. This is not objections or anything like this. So if you're looking for a little bit of help or a little bit of structure beyond what we've talked about here, by all means, please take a look at the Ohio Motion to Compel practical guidance in Lexis. I think that's always helpful just in terms of understanding it. And of course, please let me know if you have any questions. I will say first, send it to your accountability partner for a quick look-see, and then I'm happy to give you some feedback as well.